By the time 65 rolls around, only 1 in 100 people will be well off financially. 70% of wealthy families lose their wealth by the second generation. And more so, around 90% of families lose all wealth by the third generation. So even if you make a fortune, in the most abundant time in history, statistically, you, your kids, or your grandkids will screw it all up. But by the end of this video, not only will you understand what it takes to build generational wealth, but also have a game plan for your kids. Buckle up, you might want to take some notes. Let's do this. Number 1, buy land. In order for you to understand generational wealth, there's an important distinction we need to get right. Personal wealth versus family wealth. For example, $100,000 sitting in your bank account is personal wealth. You can go to your nearest coffee shop and buy a coffee with money from that account. It's at your discretion, so it can be depleted. Family wealth, on the other hand, is illiquid most of the time. That means it's hard to change back into money or requires extra steps. Because of this illiquid function, you're less likely to blow through it in the case of petty spending. Land is the ultimate store of value. There's a fixed amount of land on this planet Earth, and the fact that you can buy a piece of the Earth is mind-blowing to us. Considering the fact the population is increasing and demand for space is always shooting up, the demand for land will always increase. Buy land and have your children hold on to it. It'll only increase in value. By number 5, we'll show you what you need to do with that land in case you need money so you don't have to sell it. Number 2, buy cash-flowing property. The golden gods of cash-flowing property are apartment rentals, commercial property, or hotels. If you've played Monopoly before, you know how this goes. You buy, you hold, you wait, you cash in. As long as you don't sell the property and there's a demand for it, it will forever put food on your table. Here's the easiest recipe for generational wealth. Throughout your life, buy at least 2 rental properties outside of everything else you buy. Now, these won't give you the lifestyle of a king, but you'll never go hungry for as long as you live. When your kids become adults, teach them the golden rule as well, so they would buy 2 rental properties too. As long as you stay clear of any dramatic events like an uninsured rare illness, in only 2 generations, the family will begin building a portfolio of passive income that will stick around for decades to come. People will always need homes, businesses will always need shops to sell their goods, and people will always travel to nice hotels. Number 3, build an evergreen business. There are some businesses out there that can survive through time. Most businesses can't. You might be killing it on TikTok right now, but your grandkids won't be eating from your glow-up videos, so you need to expand. An evergreen business has made money in the past, makes money now, and will make money long after you're gone. Want to have your mind blown? Boeing is a last name. The company was named by William Boeing after himself. Hilton is also a last name. So is Ferrari, Lamborghini, Chevrolet, Porsche, Ford, all with the family last name. Mercedes-Benz was named after Carl Benz. Burberry in the name of the Father, Son, and the House of Gucci. Versace, Louis Vuitton, Balenciaga, Fendi, Chanel, all last names. Bosch, Dell, Disney, Dyson, Harley-Davidson, Hewlett-Packard, Forbes, Guinness, Harrods, Hennessy, Jack Daniels, Kellogg, Lavazza, Mattel, McDonald's, Ritz-Carlton, Marriott, Rolls-Royce, Charles Rolls, and Henry Royce. We could do this all day long. Almost every brand you touch in a store is someone's legacy. Someone's brainchild that became a business, structured in such a way that it survived until now. The family became the brand. The family became the business. The only requirement is to take it seriously and keep innovating and developing in your space. What would your last name sound like as a brand? What business can you start that your children could carry on the lantern for you? Number 4, buy S&P 500. So many of you have heard the stories. If you invested X amount of money in Apple or Bitcoin in the early days, you would have trillions now. But the thing is, you're just not smart enough to know what the next Apple or the next Bitcoin will be, no matter what the bots in the comments impersonating us will tell you. But there is still hope. We'd like to introduce you to the ultimate passive investment vehicle. There's actually a way for your money to grow no matter what if you look at long-term investment periods. It's called the S&P 500. The S&P 500 bundles the best-performing 500 companies in the US and allows you to invest in all of them at the same time. If one company does poorly, it's taken out and replaced with another good one. Since its introduction, the S&P 500 has been the golden goose for those interested in building generational wealth. Historically, since its super slow inception, the S&P has returned an average of 6% per year every year. Warren Buffett, considered by many to be the greatest investor of all time, hasn't beat the S&P 500 in over a decade. It's honestly hilarious. Now, if you want to invest in the S&P 500 for the long run, we personally recommend Vanguard or Fidelity. Now, we're not sponsored by them and we don't have anything to gain from this recommendation. We personally use Vanguard. Now, sure, you can use eToro or other apps to gain exposure to the S&P 500, but who knows if these apps will be around 5 years from now, not to mention a few decades. Number 5, buy, borrow, die. You wanted to know the secret to generational wealth. Well, this is it. Buy, borrow, die. The strategy is simple, and it might be the most valuable piece of information you'll get in your entire life, so listen carefully. Whether or not you'll build generational wealth boils down to a list of only 3 things. 1, what you buy. 2, what you do with it. And 3, what happens to it when you die. That's it. Now, there is a right and wrong way to do this, so here's how to do it right. Step 1. Buy things that hold and appreciate in value over time. We've got this covered so far. You know what an asset is. Step 2. And this one is the golden nugget that makes all the difference. If you need money, you never sell an asset. You borrow against it. Let's say you own a piece of land or an apartment, and you need money for something. Instead of selling the property, you take a loan out against it. This is how the rich build wealth. They never sell anything. Why? Because you don't have to pay taxes on borrowed money. As long as you don't blow through the money that you borrowed on dumb purchases, you can buy more assets that generate more income. Pay off the debt to build up credit, and they'll allow you to borrow even more money. It's like a financial money hack. So you do this over and over again until you build an abundance of wealth. But there is a last step to pay attention to. Step 3, death. At some point, you will die. Ideally, you want to leave all this wealth to your kids and grandkids. But look, here's the thing. The state doesn't want you to do that. Very much like a mafia boss, it wants its cut. And it is a big one. It's called the inheritance tax. In the UK, it's an eye-watering 40%, although allowances do exempt up to the first £1 million depending on circumstances. In the United States, it's between 17 and 40% depending on where you live and how rich you are. So if you want to build generational wealth, you need to understand how to follow tax regulation by law, but minimize the impact it has on your long-term strategy. At number 9 on this list, we'll talk about how to lower your taxes. But until we get there, number 6, buy and hold Bitcoin. The goal of this video is to help you build generational wealth. Well, that's where technology comes into play. Once every 20 years or so, almost like clockwork, a technological revolution happens. Those who understand it, or at least have enough guts to put some of their bets on the new kid on the block, usually reap disproportionate rewards. Here's how you should be thinking about it. We are not saying sell your house and go all in on Bitcoin and crypto. But if you're doing okay, why not buy 1 Bitcoin for your kid? Worst case scenario, you lose a bit of money, so what? Best case scenario, and we think there's more than a decent chance that this will happen, that 1 Bitcoin will make you or your kid a millionaire in less than a decade. Here's why we think that will work. More now than ever, with COVID and the war happening in Ukraine, with inflation at historic highs, with currencies being devalued and countries facing economic downturns, the world is going to require a fully separate store of value that's easily portable, scarce, and digitally native. As of the end of 2021, there are approximately 56.1 million millionaires in the world. These are people who got to $1 million in wealth. Well, there's only going to be 21 million Bitcoin. If every millionaire wanted to buy 1 Bitcoin, which, by the way, is trading at under $40,000 right now, they wouldn't be able to. If they split all of it evenly between them, each would only get 0.375. From our perspective, it's an asymmetric risk worth taking. Number 7. Buy and hold gold, silver, and gemstones. Okay, look, we'll be honest, we're not big fans of precious metals or jewels because, well, we think of them as antiquated, low-tech, and boring. We think there are better stores of value out there, but that's for another video. Yet, they do serve their role in the generational wealth journey. This is why your ancestors passed down jewelry from one generation to the next. The family heirloom, the gold bracelet, all jewelry is portable wealth. Today it's become a sort of flex or status statement, but it did serve a much more practical role back in the day. In case of any emergency, what did they do? They pawned off some of the jewelry. Anything but go into debt. If you are one of the few who thinks the world is coming to an end and will go back to the old days, well, you might want to start buying some gold bullion or silver coins sold on the teleshopping networks. Outside of its use in computer chips, we don't really see gold or silver as something of great utility. People call it God's money because all the gold on the planet has come from meteors hitting the Earth's crust millions of years ago. But as we become a spacefaring civilization, we see no reason why gold would maintain its rare metal status. A 5-year-old is able to understand supply and demand rules. So if all of a sudden we have an abundance of gold available, its value will go to zero. Just ask the people in the Emirates what happened to the pearl industry when Japan developed artificial pearl farming and the supply became unlimited. Number 8. Buy and hold art or other things that people would pay for. We'll make this one short because we want to get to the good stuff. Yes, there's a value in desire. There's value in collectibles. There's even something called intangible value. Elvis's guitar is more valuable than the exact same guitar model because there are people who value it higher. There's no material difference, but the appeal is real. Art is one of the last unregulated markets in the world. This is why the NFT space blew up the way it did. If your goal is to build multi-generational wealth, you might want to look at things that will still be desired decades from now. Art is one of those things that stood the test of time, while your Jordan 1s, Yeezys, or random 10,000 NFT collections might end up suffering the same fate as Beanie Babies. Number 9. Never stop earning and minimize taxes. First of all, no matter how much income you get from your investments, if the goal is to build long-term viable wealth, you should never stop earning. You don't have to work a job that makes you miserable just for the sake of a paycheck if you're already well off. But look, from personal experience, we can tell you that we humans derive purpose from work. We like to build things, to figure out puzzles. You like helping people, although it might not feel like it at first. No matter how much money they inherit, your children should never stop earning. A person who can't earn for themselves cannot hold on to wealth. You need to teach your children the principles of building and maintaining wealth. Once everyone is able to generate wealth, the question becomes, how do you hold on to it for the long run? That's where you need to learn to speak the language of money, or at least get yourself a good accountant that serves as a translator. Incorporate and start deducting your expenses as business expenses. Make your children part of the company. Pay intellectual property rights to them for their ideas, as they're helping you to navigate the business in a new climate. Your tax advisor will be able to help you with everything. Your goal is to be 100% legal in all of your efforts. But look, you're under no obligation to pay more tax than you're legally required.